Alright, you guys, today we're going to do a little bit of palette shaming, and not like palette shaming for you guys, like palette shaming myself. So I've done a couple of palette shaming videos on my channel before. I think I did one like 2 years ago where I shared all the palettes that I bought in 2017. I did one last year where I think I did something similar, but I did it like halfway through the year, just kind of as a check-in for myself. And I haven't done one this year, but this year I want to do things a little bit differently. I can do one where I show off all the palettes that I've bought this year as well, so you guys want, because I'm sure that needs to be done. I need to remind myself how much makeup I have and why I don't need more eyeshadow palettes. But today, I thought I would share some palettes that I have not touched this year, which is like so sad and kind of disgusting. I feel like there should not be eyeshadow in my collection that I have not touched this year. Like, I'm sure I've swatched these, but like worn them on my eyes, it's a little iffy there. So that's what we're gonna do in today's video. If you guys haven't been keeping up with my videos, you won't know that I'm actually on a no-buy right now, and this is my first like official no-buy. And with the rest of my collection, I knew that I wasn't really going to have too much of an issue with temptation, but eyeshadow is where I just like kind of lose my mind and black out. So I'm hoping to do this video as a kind of a reminder so I can go back and watch it and remind myself, hey, you have too much eyeshadow, stop buying it. So I'm not going to blabber on any further. Let's hop into this big old basket of palettes that I have not touched this year. Alright, I just want to say, in my defense, some of these are decidedly fall palettes, and it's like just turning fall right now, so I feel like I get a little bit of a free pass for those, but not all of them. Some of them I deserve. Alright, you guys, I'm just gonna start at the top of this pile. I feel like I have a leaning tower of palettes in my lap, and this never ends well. I always end up dropping something breaks, and I'm upset. It's a thing. So let's just start at the top, and I'm going to start off with my Kaleido Cosmetics Golden Hour palette. So this was actually gifted to me from the brand a couple of years ago, I feel like, at this point. And it's just kind of a satiny palette. It doesn't have a lot of depth to it. I mean, it does, but they're satin shades, so they don't really provide a ton of depth. I don't love this palette, you guys. I'm kind of contemplating depotting it because I feel like maybe I'll get more use out of the shadows like that. It's not a bad palette, it's just not my favorite palette. The formula of these metallics is really soft, but it's not super shiny, and that's really not what I'm going for in a metallic shadow right now. I got a lot of use out of this when I was like doing like super quick, like 10-minute eye looks, or not 10-minute eye looks, like 2-minute eye looks for work. I would shove a matte in my crease, run one of these across the lid, and call it a day. And maybe I need to go back to doing that and putting this like out of my desk so I use it when I go to work. When I'm creating a look like this or doing my makeup for me, for fun, this is not what I'm reaching for. So I haven't really dipped into this one a whole lot this year. Okay, next up we have a palette that just screams fall to me, and so I don't really feel too guilty about not really using this one a whole lot this year, but it is Good Sport from ColourPop. I know this is like everyone's favorite fall palette from ColourPop. I just simply adore this color story. It is so beautiful, so unique. I really wish like ColourPop would come back to creating palettes like this. Like, I would die if they created a Good Sport Part 2 like this fall. Like, if they made it like into one of those bigger palettes. I know a lot of us are not into the bigger palettes, but I feel like they could expand this color story in a really fun way. Okay, now I kind of want to do that. I think that would be a fun Instagram post. Like, if I created an expanded version of Good Sport with my singles, I might have to write that down. Anyways, back to Good Sport. This is one of my favorite color stories to work with, but it's definitely a very fall palette, and it's like, as I said, just turning fall right now, so I'm excited to dip back into this one in the next couple weeks and start creating some looks with it. Another palette that I feel is very fall in my collection and is also from ColourPop is the Sheet palette from ColourPop, or the Femme Rosa palette. I never know what this thing is called, but it is a beautiful little palette, you guys. It has some really gorgeous kind of like, I feel like these are more satiny tones up here, but they're really, really great kind of like light lid shades or highlighter shades. And you've got some beautiful, more intense metallic midtones, and then this gorgeous row of mattes in the bottom here. I feel like this is like a warm, neutral lover's palette. It's not as strictly fall as I would say like the Good Sport palette is. I mean, of course you can wear makeup, whatever kind of makeup, whatever time of year you want, but I feel like I definitely gravitate towards this a little bit more in the fall and the winter, because I feel like I either pop this like a salmony shade or this like peachy shade in my crease, and then I pop one of these in my outer corner, and I feel like that tends to be a little bit smokier and a little bit sultrier, and those are the looks that I tend to go for in the fall. So this is more of a fall palette for me, but I'm so excited to dip back into it. But also I haven't used it this year, so bad Sydney. Okay, this next one is one that I kind of think I need to just declutter, and that is the Velvet Rose palette from Makeup Revolution. As you guys can probably tell, this is a dupe for the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. That didn't work. This is a dupe for the Anastasia Soft Glam palette, and I feel like I bought this palette at the end of my like neutral craze. I've really been on the color train for quite a long time now. I feel like this look is pretty neutral for me. Like, it's still kind of greeny, but like in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty neutral. But I feel like I bought this at the end of my true like neutral obsession phase, and I don't know. I don't love the formula. I do like the matte formula, but the shimmer formula is just weird. They're like thick shimmers in the weirdest way. Like when I swatch it on my finger, I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous, but I feel like when I put it on my eyes, I'm never super impressed. So maybe I need to pull this one back out, play with it for a couple weeks, and then make a decision on it, because it's not getting a lot of love in my collection right now. Okay, this next palette I'm really just holding on to for purely sentimental reasons, and that is the Sweet Peach palette from Too Faced. You guys, this was the first, was it the first? I think this was the first like high-end palette that I ever bought for myself, and it just holds so many sentimental memories for me that I just have a really hard time letting go of it, even though, oh, no, it still smells delicious. I was gonna say, even though the shadows are probably expired. I mean, they have probably expired, but I feel so sentimental towards this palette. I don't find myself reaching into it very often. I probably need to like actually test out these shadows and see if they're any good anymore, and then make some decisions from there. But I think this is gonna be one that I just hold on to for a long time for purely sentimental reasons, and because it smells delicious. Alright, the next palette we have to chat about is the Ace Beauté Grandiose palette, or Grandois? No, I think it's Grandiose. This is a palette that I actually got in BoxyCharm, and I think it is so, so beautiful, but for some reason I do not find myself reaching into this palette. I feel like this is the perfect like late summer, early fall palette. It has some of those pretty like pops of summery color, but then you have some sultrier tones right here to kind of take you into fall. So maybe I'll leave this one out on my desk. I need to film a Shop My Stash update, so maybe I'll pull this one out and put it in my little palette organizer on my desk, and then use it and create some of those really fun transitional fall looks. This next palette is another one that I should probably depot or declutter, and that is my Anastasia Beverly Hills Prism palette. I totally impulse bought this palette. Let's just get that out of the way here. I did not need this palette. I think I grabbed it on sale at Ulta. Maybe it was at Marshalls or TJ Maxx. I don't know. It was on sale somewhere. And I thought that I would just love this color story. This was like when I was first like kind of trying to dip my toes into color and kind of failing. I thought, oh, there's like some fun jewel tone pops of color in here that'll kind of help me expand my horizons. And the formulas on the pops of color are just not my favorite. I feel like Throne is gorgeous, but looks like straight up black. It's really, really hard to see any green in the shadow. Maybe I need to try it over a base. Sphere is a really, really fun shade. It's not the best yellow I've ever used in my life, but it is a fun shade. There are some really gorgeous neutrals in here, but I feel like I'm kind of missing some mid-tones, so I don't always reach for this palette. But again, maybe this is one that I need to pull out in my next Shop My Stash round. This next palette is one that I feel very conflicted about using, especially like on my channel or on Instagram, because I bought this at the tail end of my like non-cruelty free makeup buying, and that is the Lorac Shine Bright palette. You guys, I really do love the Lorac shadow formula. I think it is beautiful. It was one of my favorites before I went cruelty free, and I love this palette. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous, but I have such a hard time using it and feeling good about using it because I'm cruelty free now, you know? I love it and I love the color story, and I don't want to declutter it because I still love it, but I feel like I'm not using it. So I don't know what to do about this palette. Maybe I just need to depot these shadows because these are like cute little tiny pans. Maybe I would feel okay about using them as singles. That's something I need to explore a little more. Alright, next up we have 3 gigantic palettes, and I'm not really a gigantic palette kind of girl. Like, I feel like the was gonna say my So Jaded palette, but I can't reach it where I'm sitting. The So Jaded palette is probably the biggest I feel comfortable going. But I do have 3 very large palettes in my collection that haven't been getting a lot of love from me recently. The first one is the Makeup Revolution The Wants from the Emily edit. This was Emily Noel's 83's collaboration with Makeup Revolution, and I love this color story, you guys. I adore it. I think Emily did an incredible job curating it. But again, the formula is just not my favorite. The shimmers really don't do what I want them to do. It looks like a lot of them have formed like hard pan. So again, I need to make my mind about this and then either let it go or pass it on to a friend, or I don't know. I mean, the shadows are gorgeous. And I love the names of this palette too. Like, I feel like this one's a little bit sentimental for me too, because like I just love Emily. I've been following her for absolutely forever. Like, those look really pretty. This is why I don't ever need to buy any more eyeshadow. I mean, I definitely will buy more eyeshadow eventually, but like, I don't need to. Okay, next up is a palette that I adore the color story of, but I hate the formula of. And this is the Morphe 35M. I think this is the Boss Mood palette. I bought this a couple of years ago in the fall, and I just think this is the most beautiful fall color story, but I do not like Morphe shadows, you guys. I bought this after trying the Jaclyn Hill palette, and I was like, the formula on that palette is really good. And I still enjoy the formula on that palette, but this palette does not have the same formula. I'm really only holding on to it because I adore the color story, and I think it's really fun for fall. Like, I just love these greens so much. These purples are beautiful. This gorgeous, like, corally orange shadow. Like, that's gorgeous. That screams fall to me, and like, oh, this is like Halloween vibes right here. But I don't know, I just can't get down with the formula, you guys. And after hearing about some of Morphe's more shady business practices, I just don't really want to support the brand. And finally, the last palette that I haven't used this year is the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette. I loved this palette so much when I got it, you guys. I loved the color story. I loved the formula. I still think that the formula is decent. But where I really fell out of love with this palette is the color story. It's just so neutral. And as I said, I haven't been into neutrals in a very long time. And I just keep holding on to it because, again, this one was really sentimental for me because I was so excited to use it. And I feel like I have so many memories of myself just like sitting in my freshman dorm, like playing with this and trying new looks. And I don't know. I just feel a little sentimental about it. But I haven't used it a whole lot. I know a lot of people have depotted this one into singles. I may consider that option because there are definitely some like holes in my singles collection where neutrals are concerned, and this might be able to fill it, but I'm undecided as of right now. But that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed me kind of like palette shaming myself, and I hope that this was kind of helpful for you if you guys are also in a similar situation. I challenge you to pull out all the palettes that you haven't used this year, lay them all out. Maybe I should do like a challenge where like I have a week and I have to use all the palettes that I haven't used all year. I think that could be fun. If you guys will be interested in that, I would love to host something like that over on my Instagram. But that's gonna wrap it up for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. As I said in the intro, if you haven't watched my no bite intro to kind of hear a little bit more about that, I will link that down below. But that's gonna wrap it up today, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!